Welcome back to Hike, Heal, and Hustle, this space where movement meets meaning and every mile becomes a story. I'm your host, Randy Black, and today's episode is layered. It's movement, it's memory, it's emotion, and it's transition. Because yesterday, on Thanksgiving Day, I crossed the finish line of my 12th race for 2025, completing a vision board promise I made to myself back in January. But the story of this race isn't just about running. It's about family, distance, belonging, grief, joy, and new beginnings. So let's walk through it all. So this particular episode is back to my 3 pillars: Hike, Heal, Hustle. So we'll start with Hike, the race that tried to snatch my soul. All right, I want to tell y'all about this course, okay? So Atlanta says, "Happy Thanksgiving. Here are some heels as a side dish." And honey, those heels were saying, you thought your legs were ready? Think again. Did you stretch? Or did you just wish? You trained. But I'm built differently. But the vibe completely unmatched. 33 degrees. Breathing, forming clouds. Gloves on. People hopping up and down, trying to stay warm. And the energy was. Atlanta Track Club puts on a polished event. And you can feel it in the crowd. The course was packed with families. Not just families. Turkey trot families. I didn't even know that was a thing until Wednesday. We're talking whole generations out there. Grandparents, parents, teens, kids, stroller babies with matching shirts, matching tutus, full of traditional energy. I've been enjoying the hilarious turkey trot videos online. Everybody's joking about getting dragged to a race at 7 o'clock before they get a chance to eat their mac and cheese. The more I watch, the more I realize this is a tradition for people, a ritual. You know, it's a way to start the holiday with gratitude and grit. And yesterday, I became a part of that. I moved my body through the cold, through the climbs of the hills, and I felt something opening up in me as the miles passed. It wasn't just a run though. It was everything going on around the run. So somewhere in the last stretch, something shifted inside. It wasn't, I didn't cry. I didn't want to cry. But I did feel this emotion hit. It's that quiet pride of keeping a promise to myself. 12 races, just about every month. Me, the woman who does not always feel included anywhere. Me, the woman who hikes to heal, hustles with intention, and who has had to, unfortunately, rebuild my life several times. I crossed that finish line like I was reclaiming something. So at the beginning of this year, this goal was just words on a vision board. But yesterday, it was real. And in that cold air, that moment of, I did that. I remembered why movement is healing. So every mile I walk or run is a mile away from who I used to be and a mile toward the woman I decided to become. All right, so now let's talk about what's next. As soon as I crossed that finish line, my brain said, Chilly Willy, 10K, January 10th, my birthday, 51. And I don't want to just finish it. I want to finish it stronger than I finished the Peachtree Road Race back in July. Because, honey, that Peachtree Road Race humbled me nicely, professionally. And this time, I want to show up differently. Perfection is never the goal because I don't set goals that are impossible. I want to be stronger. I want to be more prepared. I want to be consistent. That's the energy carrying me into my birthday year. Not hustling for exhaustion. I am hustling for evolution. Now let's move on to the second pillar, heal. We're going to talk family, distance, and the holiday that does not feel like a holiday. So while my girls went to South Carolina to be with our family and relatives and my grandmother, because she always cooks on Thanksgiving, I stayed home. Partly because I didn't have the money for a hotel, but also because it's just not the same anymore. Honestly, it just hasn't been the same since my mother joined the Jehovah's Witness organization. And I love my family and my relatives. But when the relatives who are still active members of this organization are around, I feel invisible. They talk around me. It's like I'm not even there. Now, there are a few relatives that I can connect with, but overall, I feel like I don't belong. And that brings up emotions, memories, longing mixed with discomfort. And I miss everyone. I especially miss my grandmother because she's the one person who, no matter what, has never made me feel unwanted. And even though I miss Thanksgiving, official Thanksgiving yesterday, there's always Christmas. And maybe Christmas will be my moment. Maybe I'll go back and reconnect. Maybe I'll feel more apt to make the trip during Christmas. We shall see. But anyway, yesterday was about letting myself feel the truth without letting it swallow me. I was running because running for me has become the space where I don't have to perform, pretend, or negotiate belonging. I have my brace bib because I paid for it. I belong. And then you think about it, when I think about on the trail or in a race, I always belong to myself. And so somewhere near the last mile of yesterday's race, this pride washed over me, a sense of completion, and not just for the race, but for the year-long tension behind it. So let's move on to third pillar, hustle. We're going to talk about endings, new beginnings, and surprise, surprise, landing a job I wasn't expecting. Okay, so I'm going to talk about work because this year has been a roller coaster. I don't remember if I shared this on this podcast, but my boss wanted to lay me off at the end of June. And I was able to talk her into waiting to July, the end of July. And then after she found out that, okay, so let me go back. In June, she wanted to lay me off until January 2026. And when I was able to talk her into July, it was still until January 2026. That was her original plan until she found out by asking me, was I planning to return in 2026? And I said no. So the plan was in July. So when she found that out, she decided to wait until November 25th, which is 2 days before Thanksgiving, to lay me off for a month. And the plan was for me to return in January. This is a job where I was going to be laid off for an entire month of December with no pay, no stability, no plan. And I didn't want to go back in 2026. But that experience told me that it was time for a change. So I decided that I was going to start my own business. And I was going to use my December layoff to get everything in order, try to get some clients, the whole 9 yards. But let me tell you what happened. I want you to listen to this crazy story and keep up with the dates. I'm going to tell you a lot of dates, but I want you to try to follow this timeline. All right. We're going to start Thursday, November 6th. While I was literally driving to work, I get a phone call for an interview for a position I had applied for. So all this time, because I didn't want to return in 2026, I had been applying for jobs. So I get a call back on this Thursday, November 6th, on my way to work. It's for an overnight HR position. Now, I didn't really want this job because it was overnight. So I'm like, no. Less pay? Absolutely not. The commute wasn't too bad. And when you live in the suburbs or Metro Atlanta, the commute is definitely a factor. So I would say 25 minutes is not too bad, but it was also going to be at night. And so then that made me weary of deer. But I took the interview anyway because I needed the momentum and options while I built my business. All right. So the interview was scheduled for that Monday, right? 11 p.m. I know, random, but whatever. So I get to work that day, mid-afternoon, and I find out that she has once again changed her mind. And this December layoff has changed to a permanent layoff. The position eliminated. So taking that interview for the job that I really didn't want seemed like an opportunity that I needed to make a reality. Now, I had sensed before they called me for the interview that this was a ghost job. And the reason why I thought that was because this exact position had been posted 3 times since the summer. And I applied all 3 times. So when they finally invited me to the interview, I thought perhaps I was wrong and that this was, in fact, a real job. However, during the interview, I discovered that the interviewer was actually in the had actually been in a position that I was now interviewing for. And I kind of got the feeling that the company promotes from within, which is perfectly fine. I think it's great. It's a perfectly fine. However, y'all have now wasted my time. So I left there and I felt anxious because now I truly needed to replace this job sooner rather than later. So the very next day, Tuesday, November 11th, I get another phone call. This time is for an HR position that was only 4 miles away from my house. And they scheduled me for my first interview. It was going to be through Teams on Wednesday. On Thursday, they invited me back for they invited me for an in-person meeting on Friday, November 14th. And then on Tuesday, November 18th, after I interviewed again, but this time with the director of the department, I was offered the job. Find out it's a hybrid position, 3 days in the office, 2 days working from home, full benefits for me, and if I want to, my girls, my daughters. So now we've got stability. I get a little bit of my dignity back, proximity, and breathing room. So I will be starting this position on Tuesday, December 2nd. And let me tell y'all this, even with this boom, even with this stability, I will still be starting my own business because this year reinforced to me that no matter how big the company or if it's federal, no matter how good the boss seems, layoffs can hit anyone at any time. And I refuse to live vulnerable to somebody else's knee-jerk decisions ever again. My hustle is mine now. My options are mine now. My legacy also mine now. All right, that's all 3 pillars. So let's move into some affirmations. And if you feel so inclined, take a deep breath in, hold it as long as you feel comfortable, and then release. And here's our affirmation for today. My discipline honors my vision. My truth anchors my steps. And every season teaches me who I'm becoming. Crossing that finish line yesterday wasn't just about race number 12. It was about closing a chapter of a wild, unpredictable, transformative year. A year where I lost things, found things, released things, and reclaimed myself. A year where I learned that belonging starts within, and that movement, whether on a trail, in a race, or toward a new job, reveals the next version of you. And if you're in a season of transition, identity shifts, or difficult family dynamics, let this episode be a reminder. Your path still belongs to you. Your truth will carry you further than an approval ever will. And your next finish line might be closer than you think. All right. Thank you for walking this journey with me. I'll see you on the next trail, and I'll meet you at the starting line in January. And as always, keep hiking, keep healing, and keep hustling with intention.